Today's lesson is all about multiplying decimals. We're going to see examples in word problems where multiplication is the operation we choose. Pay attention to the language and keywords in these problems so when you have to decide the operation in future assignments, you know what to be looking for. To review from last week when we were multiplying decimals, what I'm going to show you is how this first example and the second problem in your activator require the same steps. Okay, so the original problem, 43 times 8, we set up with one number on top, one on the bottom. 8 times 3 would be 24. I can only put down one digit, so I put down the ones place, carrying that 2. 8 times 4 is 32, plus the 2 that I carry is 34. Very similarly, when I look at the second example, the only thing that changes is that I have a decimal. Remember from last week, we could set a problem like this up as a fraction, so I would have 43 tenths times 8 over 1, because there is no decimal point. Or I could set it up as a multiplication problem, ignoring the decimals. So I'm going to ignore that decimal in between the 4 and the 3, and I'm multiplying 43 times 8. Just like I did in the first problem. Okay, the only difference would then be is I need to include a decimal in my answer. So I have one decimal point here, none in the 8, so I'm going to just shift this over once. And as you can see, the answers are very similar, except for just moving that decimal place value. All right. This first example is taking us back to our knowledge of area. Okay, so in this problem, we are going to find the total area of a rectangular playground that has these dimensions. Okay, again, I'm going to show you both strategies, one with the fraction and the other one without fractions. So I'm going to multiply 18 and 2 tenths. So the 2 place value there is in the tenths place. So I would have 10 as the denominator, multiplied by 12 and 75 hundredths. The 5 being in the hundredths place means I would set this up as a fraction out of 100. When you're writing these, you eliminate the decimal by putting it over, again, its power of 10 denominator. Okay, the other approach is to take this problem and just jump to the multiplication. Okay, I'm going to ignore the 2 decimal place values, and so I just am going to have 1,275, again without the decimal point, and then 18.2 without the decimal. Okay, when we're multiplying, as I'm about to show you, we don't need to put in 0 placeholders. This is really important when we see later questions with whole numbers. Okay, you don't need to add a decimal point and put in your zeros like we do when we add and subtract. Okay, important to notice, okay, this is going to have 3 numbers on the bottom, which means I'm going to have 3 rows of numbers in my answer. So starting with 2 times 5, that would be 10. Again, you can only put 1 place value down. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 more would be 15. Again, putting down the 5, carrying the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 1 that I carried is again 5, and then 2 times 1. I'm going to switch my color, and this might be something that helps you. Okay, so that's multiplying everything by the 2. So now I'm going to move to multiplying everything up top by the 8. Looking at this though, 8 is in the tens place, which means I need to put in my 0 placeholder. Then again, I start with the 5 first. 8 times 5 is 40. Put down the 0, carry the 4. This is a good time again for using different colors so I know which number I'm carrying. So 8 times 7 is 56. I'm adding in the 4, which would give me 60. Again, I put down the 0, carry the 6 above the 2, making my way across. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 6 more would give me 22. Put down the 2, carry the 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus the 2 that I carried is 10. Because I have no numbers after the 1, I can put down the 0 and the 1. Okay, that has now showed me I've multiplied the 8 by the 5, 7, 2, and 1, so I can cross the 8 off. Again, I'm going to switch my color, and now I'm multiplying by the 1. This is now in the hundreds place, so I'm going to put 2 0 placeholders. Then I would do 1 times 5, 1 times 7, 1 times 2, and 1 times 1. I have now multiplied the 1 by all 4 of those numbers. I can cross this off. Okay. Once you are done, so I've multiplied every number on the bottom by every number on the top, then I take these 3 numbers and I add them all together. Alright, then at the end, I'm going to figure out where my place value is. So now is when I'm going to go back up to these original numbers, and I'm going to count how many decimal place values. So that's how many numbers come after the decimal point. So here that's 1, and then 1, 2. I add the total number of decimals, so my answer should have 3. 1, 2, 3. Right. If you did this with fractions, what you would have in this problem is 2, 3, 2, 0, 5. 10 times 100 is 1,000. And so again, I have 1, 2, 3 zeros, so my answer is going to have 3 place values. Okay, so as you continue through today's assignment, again, pay attention to the language. You know these problems are going to ask you to multiply, and so I want you to again be reading and underlining, looking for those keywords.